Okay, so let's get started. Hello everyone, this is Mandar Bhide from B Computer Engineering, Android facilitator for the campus. Welcome to the third session of our Android study jams, that is a tour of a Kotlin app. Let's just jump into the app. So far we have seen all of these things like what is Kotlin, what are its variables, how to handle conditions, then defining functions, classes, etc. But now it's time to put it into a real working app, right? So this session is completely dedicated to showing an Android app written in Kotlin and understanding the concept of how views work and how they are bound to each other and how data is handled within those views. Uh, so let me just join from my phone. Uh, Chinmay, please allow me. Sorry for the delay. My phone is not able to join. So let's quickly view how this entire application is working. Just don't see these classes right now. Look it as an activity. An entire app is an activity for the whatever Android device you have. And these boxes in green are part of UI, that is user interface. And these boxes in yellow are part of UI, data, that is the data that is being shown in the UI. So these things are separated in this MVVM architecture, that is model, view, and view model. Model is basically any class that holds data. Like suppose we are holding data of books in this case. Then the class book is a model for the data. Then there are views, that is this UI, which which is laid down on the screen. And then there is view model, which connects the model and the views, that is UI and the backend logic. Uh, Let me change the presentation. Okay, my screen is visible, right? So this is the folder structure we saw yesterday. That is, there are different classes, there are different resources, and certain Gradle scripts which actually start our app and um, handle the dependencies. Then there is the starting point of our application, that is the manifest file, where we define the opening activity. In this case, it is main activity. And under main activity, what we are doing here is we have different fragments. As you can see, this is main fragment, which is initially joined to the uh, to the screen. Then there are more fragments like home screen. They all extend to a class fragment. We saw inheritance yesterday, right? So whatever methods there are in this fragment class, we can access them in this home fragment. For example, there is on create view method. It is defined in fragment class, but we have to redefine it using this override keyword for our own purpose. Like uh, in that class, it gives out only a blank screen, but we have to show something on that screen, right? That's why we are overriding this method on create view. In every create view, we are inflating a layout. Like in you can see inflating layout as kind of creating a layout and then giving it to the fragment that is being shown on the screen. And here we are giving it layout of home activity. Let's just zoom in little. Here you can see there is um, this top bar is a linear layout. It has a image view, which is a QR drawable is QR button. Then there is view that takes every this layout weight property. This is making it work as like if anyone has done Flutter, there is a widget called expanded, or in web there is, I guess, flex grow CSS property. I don't recall exactly, but that makes the view take entire possible space. So this view is taking all the place in between, so that this button and avatar are at the end of the view, end of the linear layout. So you can see there is uh, a button to listings and there is a circle avatar. Under that we have another linear layout which is another row. It has a edit text that is text field and a button which is search button. Under that we have a relative layout so that we have to perform here a stack, that is we have to have these both elements in the center, that is this. Let's just make grid view invisible. Okay, so when the search bar is empty, we are supposed to show this image, and when search bar has some value, we are supposed to uh, make request to the Google Books API and display the results over here. So in that case, sorry, okay, you can see this is only highlighting the view. If there is something in this edit text, then we are supposed to show the result grid. So how do we handle this part? This is attached to this home fragment. So let's open them side by side and show just code. See, everything that you need to access in the code part, you need to give it an ID. Suppose here is a search button. It has ID search, and we have accessed it here using find view by ID. Those who work in web, they will know there is similar function in JavaScript, which allows us to select the views, select the elements in the DOM using find view by ID. So for everything that we need to access in the code, we have an ID and we are accessing it using find view by ID. It is great practice to make them private within the class so that no other activity can access this even accidentally. Here you can see a little difference in the uh, definition of these variables. That is, first is private so that nobody else can access it. Then there is late in it, which defines that this is not defined when the class is created, but it will be defined later. It will be defined in on create view or any other method. That's why we are putting let in it over here. Then there is var, as we previously discussed, that var can be reassigned, then variable name, and then its type. So here we just a second. Okay, so here we are addressing this edit text, right? It has an ID of say search query. So we need to define its type as an edit text. This is a class which actually inherits from the view class and defines a text field like structure where we can input a value. Similarly, there is a grid view over here in the code. It has ID of books grid. We will get it later over here r.id.booksgrid. Similarly, we have taken all these views in the class and initialize them here. And then for each view, uh, there are certain methods like on click listener. You can see here set on click listener. So suppose we have something input in the edit text. Now we want user to tap that search button. How to handle that tap? So this is the function which helps us to handle the taps on the certain view. So it is view that set on click listener. Actually, this part is not necessary, but I have kept it as it is just to see. You can see the hint that we can remove it. But this one takes an on-click listener, which is a function, and within that function, we can do whatever we want on that click. We can navigate to another fragment. We can make an API call or anything. Similarly, editor text, you have seen the edit text, right? There is a done button in right corner. So that done button, we are handling that event over here on editor action listener. That is, editor action is like there is okay or there is go or there is next, etc. So we are handling that activity. This line over here, it actually hides the keyboard, uh, virtual keyboard in the screen. Then we are making a call to searching the books. We will look into this further in a few minutes. Then here we are just navigating to another fragment, that is a listings fragment, certain books that have been listed. Similarly, suppose user presses a back button on the screen. We need to handle that too, right? We don't want user to go anywhere else or just to the previous screen. Suppose we have logged in the user goes to home, accidentally presses back and comes back to login. That won't work, right? So what we are doing here is we are taking the key event dot key code. Here you can see the usage of enum. Someone asked me yesterday that what is exactly difference between real class and I mean normal class and an enum class. This one had some value associated with. Here you can see the value over here, which is, let's just go to that class, I guess. Yeah, okay. This is a class which actually, see, there are so many possible values for this. It actually corresponds to all the possible keys. Suppose it is an Android TV. You are writing an app for an Android TV. Then there will be certain keys on the remote. If you are writing for, say, Android tablet, then there will be certain keys that can be pressed, or for a mobile. So you can see there are key codes for every key, and there are keys for other Android components like end call, etc. That is power key. Even F keys, that is F1, F2, F12, they too have certain codes associated with them. So now it is not very practical to remember all these numbers, right? So what we do is we create an enum class. This is a completely compiled class, so you cannot see the enum keyword. Even the extension of file is .class and not kt or not .java. So this is completely compiled class. But uh, if we had defined that class, it would be enum, and we can access all these flags using that enum class. So now we no more need to actually remember all those numbers, but we can use some friendly name like keycode back. If this function on key listener, if it returns false, then user is not navigated to the previous screen. And if this function returns true, then only uh, view, the previous view is reloaded. That is, suppose if we are going from login to home screen, then in home screen we need to return false on with this block. If we return accidentally true, then if user presses back button, he will go to login screen and it will be a mess basically. So now it's time to see some real Android part, that is view model. So we saw in that architecture diagram that there is an activity, it has certain UI fragments and certain view models. View models which actually hold data and which can be shared among the fragments. So here is a books view model which inherits from the class view model defined in Kotlin basic libraries. This tag is just to identify the class so that there are no multiple instances created. This tag has to be unique, and if we don't define it, compiler may throw some error. Then within that view model, we define certain methods which carry out certain stuff. As you can see here, we are making call to Google Books API and asking for the query that the user put in the edit text previously. And then we are setting max results to 10 so that the results are loaded quickly. We can put actually any number, but too big number will result in a slow application. That's why have to limit it to certain value. This read text basically makes a get call to the given URL and returns a response. Here we are passing that JSON object received in the GET request, creating a book out of that and adding it to the books. We have created an array list, that is, look it just as an array which can be accessed using indices, also has add and remove methods. So we are adding all those books in that array. At end of it, we are changing the value of this data variable. Basically, this variable will be exposed to all the fragments, and it contains a mutable live data. That is, mutable means one that can be changed, and it is returning some array list of type, and each object of that array list is of type book. We will come to that book class shortly, but for this activity, we have checked the query. If the query is not empty, made the request to API, received the response and passed the response to proper class like this method from JSON. And at the end, we have assigned that variable to the value of our listenable variable. Listenable variables are kind of, we can actually asynchronously listen to the changes in them. Like there has to be some JavaScript equivalent for that in the fetch part. But okay, we are changing that value and we are returning the same value. Uh, if anyone has any doubts, just interrupt me by turning on your mic because I'm on Android Studio screen. I won't be able to see the text. You can interrupt me anytime. Okay, so let's continue. This function is specifically defined to get certain book in that list, get book at index, and then this function returns all the books you can see. This is quite different syntax than other languages. If it was Java, what we would do is we would do return, and here again we would do return. But Kotlin has a nice advantage. We can actually use this syntax, return if and just value, and else just value. So we don't need to repeat this return part. It might not seem very big part, but return, I mean this string return takes certain uh, memory memory space. So if you are avoiding multiple return strings in the code, you are actually shrinking the size of code to certain extent. And this is another function on cleared, that is when somehow we need to reset that data to original state. So we are reassigning the book list to an empty live data. So how do we access this in the home fragment, right? In home fragment, you can see search view model is a books view model by activities view models. We see in the architecture that this activity has certain view models in it. So we need to access those activity view models. So we are taking this using by keyword, that is activity. Yeah, so search view model is an instance of books view model within this activity. If you change activity, this will go null. So make sure you don't change activity in the way. Like you, there is function called start activity, and we have to pass it some intent. Not the topic of right now. But if you use this one and navigate to some other activity, this will actually turn null, and that will be quite difficult to debug. That's so make sure you don't use start activity in between when you want to retain the view model. This is basic logic as I said in that, sorry, activity home. Okay. So here this is a text which says search some books and an image that illustrates a search, and there is a grid view. We don't want these all three at a time, right? So what we are doing here is we are checking if our view models have some search results We are checking the size of that array. Let's just open them side by side so that this get books, it is returning an array list, and we are checking if its size is 0. If its size is 0, so user hasn't searched anything. So we are setting grid visibility to invisible and this empty search text and image visibility to view.visible. And if the size is not 0, that is search, there are certain search results. Then we are doing exactly opposite. We are setting these two to invisible and setting the grid, I mean results grid to visible. Okay, so now let's go to another part of Android development, which is the adapters. So now you can see there is a grid view over here. It has certain objects in them, and the code has to decide where to put the given element. So, I mean, the program needs to adapt the given data to the given grid view, right? So, here there is an adapter class which takes the context. Context is kind of mm, in this activity is not independent. It is a part of certain similar tree of activities which are going on. So context kind of gives the context of that tree or the reference to that tree of activities. And then there is this books, which is our data, which needs to be adapted in this adapter. These are certain necessary overrides, so we have added them. This get view method is our interest method right now. So we are getting a custom view. Then we are actually checking if layout inflator is not null. If it is null, we are getting the system's layout inflator. Layout inflator, as I said before, it decides how to kind of put the objects on the screen. I mean, display objects on the screen. And then if it is a if now we have layout inflator, so we create a view out of that, which is joined to this another layout, that is uh, this is layout of each item in the grid view. It has an image, a text, and another text. So we are taking these using find view by id once again, and now we need to render image, right? So uh, what Google API gives us is a link, I mean web link to that image. So instead of once again going through all that stuff, we have used a ready-made library named Picasso. It loads, it actually performs in the get request in the backend and loads it into the image, that is our image view of this grid item. Then we set the text value and then we are setting the author's value and we are returning that view so that for each item in this array list there will be a grid item instance which is returned from this get view. Uh, I hope you guys are following along. Do you have any doubts or it's going good? If you understood whatever I just said, just put understood in the chat so that I will know. Or any part that you didn't understand, I will explain it again. Okay, let's continue. So this is a grid adapter. Similarly, there is a list adapter. It has been implemented listing list adapter. It has exactly similar syntax. That is, we get a view, we get its elements, then we assign the values to those elements and we return the view. Just a moment. Okay, so you can see my physical device screen, right? Somebody confirm, please, so that we can move on with actual demo of the app.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so here you can see that the app has been installed on my screen, on my device. This is a general splash screen which is shown in the main activity. Then here is the login activity over here. It has simple layout, not exactly simple, but relatively simple layout. Currently, the login logic has not yet been implemented, so we don't need to add email or password. So in here we can search a book. The edit text has been activated as shown before. Suppose we search some book over here. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So when we completed the editing using done, the API call was made and a list view has been generated on the screen. And there are exactly 10 results over here because we explicitly mentioned so. And now if we tap on one of the results, we can see that there is certain information about book. There is this certain button that we can change the price. And if we want to add some price on our own, we can do that too using the edit text. And then we can just list that book. Uh, let's just add another book over here. Let's say Mossad. Okay, so there is about this book. Let's set some price like 45. So now when we go to the listings, we can see that the data in that listing view adapter has been retained. Also, the data in books adapter, that is the search result, has been retained in the screen. So this is what the view models allow us to do. That is, we can retain the data across screens, and we can use that data or update that data. Uh, Here I have created a back button manually. Let's just go to its code also. Mm, Listings. Okay. Okay. So here we have got that back button, which is visible on the screen on the top left corner. And on that button tap, we are doing the fragment shift. This is general fragment syntax for changing the fragment on the screen. We are going back to the home fragment, as you can see here. There are many more things that are still to be implemented in this app. Just for your info, this app was actually developed in Flutter completely, and this was a real project. This is just a Kotlin version of that to give you guys an idea of how the views work, how view models work, and how to actually create layouts. And if we restart this app, then the data will be lost. So it will start over again. So we need to develop some logic to save that data to server, say Firebase backend or some other node backend. See, the grid view is empty again, and the listings list view is empty again. But it is not empty when we search some book. Let's say we search again the Mozart. We can view it. We went to listing, there are no listings, but the results are written in that adapter. So I hope you understood whatever part I took today. For any doubt, I will be sharing the Git repository link for this project. You can actually make pull request to it if you add some feature on your own. But I would suggest wait till next Oktoberfest so that you will get rewards too. Also, the purpose of this app demo is to give you guys an idea of how the app UI has to be and how your concept of app should be translated to a real life code. The hackathon's details will be available by, I guess, tomorrow on the group. Also, the recordings of these meetings, I mean, these sessions will be available. So make sure you follow those parts. And I would like to thank you guys for being in the session. That really helps us. You can contact me anytime on LinkedIn or say Instagram, where I'm generally active. And I hope you enjoyed these sessions. Thank you.